Hi guys, it's Ryan from leprivatebanker.com. Just do a recap for crude oil. I'll quickly touch base on the SP500. It's been a while since I've done some recaps. I've been pretty busy the last couple of weeks, so just took a step back from doing this. But anyway, just going to do a quick update for crude. Not going to go into too much detail, but we can see here that we're still in this bearish trend, and we've seen these multiple bracketing areas and consolidation periods before the move continues, and we're currently in a 9-10 day balance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah. Today's the 10th day, so we're currently in a 10-day balancing range. Yesterday we opened gap down, and we took a peek below this area, and we found a buyer back into the bracket, and today we just basically found we opened or gap up again. We auctioned back into the range. We couldn't trade through the point of control from yesterday back into yesterday's value. We basically just see this two-way trade as we continue to see this compression play out in the market on the macro time frames. So for the minute, we're just going to continue to trade the range. We're going to look to buy the lows and sell the highs. Obviously on the high, from a higher time frame perspective. Today I was trying to sell this back down into yesterday's range, but we saw here that we just had responsive buyers from the lows of the brackets, and we couldn't trade below the point of control from yesterday, holding yesterday's upper distribution. And we had almost this double distribution yesterday. We had this distribution almost forming at the low, and then we see the expansion in E, and then we see this upper distribution. So we just basically filled in some volume in yesterday's upper distribution today, and like I said, we just couldn't trade through that point of control. So at the minute we've got some good excess here, and this was actually made in the pit session. So if we start to break this 5 exponential moving average and the 10, then we'll probably see some two-way trade and maybe a pullback to this 85 area. So and $85 a barrel is this month's current mean prices, and we've got 3 days left of this trading month now. So we've got 3 days left of trade in October before we head into November. So this year is closing out pretty fast at the moment. But as I said, we basically just see two-way trade today. So off of the open, I came in, we opened right on top of the 5 exponential moving average. We had some good confidence with the gap, so I was basically trying to sell this back into this previous day's value. So off of the open, I just hit the bid into the open, and I managed to get some fast scales and hold a core position. And then we see this sort of two-way trade coming in with buyers and sellers. But sellers were trying to lock price inside yesterday's value, but we had a buyer present from the Vwap, and you can see there was a large sort of distribution and large of accumulation down here, and so buyers were meeting sellers, and so there's probably some more business to be done back down here, I would imagine. And we see this just two-way trade come back into the market. We started to one time frame, and then this just took out the one time frame in, and we had this compression bar here, next compression bar into the 5 exponential moving average, and today's initial balance, and we just couldn't trade through the open. So I exited my core here, and I thought I got it a bit too early as we started to look like there were sellers present still. And then we see the next compression bar came in, and then I basically just got back into my core on time change here, and the market auctioned back down. And again, there were just buyers present here. We just couldn't trade through the initial balance low, and we couldn't break this this important 80-60 area, and we see continued two-way trader back in the market here. So again, I exited my core, and that was pretty much it for the rest of the day. There was not really much else to do that I could see. So still seeing buyers come in from the bottom of this bracket, and again we could see this excess hold, and we could see two-way trade come back in, and we could auction back up to this next upper balance here now. Just have to see how we close this month out in the next 4 days. I mean, there is a chance for it to head back to 85s. We'll just have to see. I'm currently looking at this on the short term. I mean, this is 240-minute bars, and I don't really count cycles on waves, but it's quite interesting too. So we've seen like this We've seen this like 10 wave downtrend at the minute. I mean, there's a complex retracement here, and there was a complex retracement, you can call it here, in Elliott wave theory, whatever you want to call it. But I was just counting the cycles in this current downtrend, and we are at a current 10 wave cycle, and we couldn't really punch a decent low here. So and there was buyers present. So if we do break this trend line and we do start to put higher highs and lower lows in, we might see a short-term trend reversal here. We just have to see. We could see this bottom break below this 79.50, and we could continue heading south. I mean, we're at some pretty decent support on the higher time frames. So it's the wrong chart. Yeah, we're on some pretty. We have some pretty decent macro support here. If you give me 2 seconds, I'll bring this up. So looking at the weekly chart, you can see we're at some important support, and basically we see this aggressive expansion auction down. We free fall down to support. Since then the market's basically found support, and we're just pausing at this area for the minute, waiting for new information to come in. So we are holding the 1 time framing down. This week, if we take out 83.20, then that will take out the 1 time framing. We'll just have to see what happens here. But again, we are at some important macro support. This is the monthly, and you can clearly see that we're at some very important support here. So obviously if we break down below this 75, then God knows where we're heading. I mean, the next references are sort of 67, 60s, and all the way back down to sort of 40, 30s dollars a barrel. So who knows what's going to happen here for crude, if we're going to continue to see two-way trade in this bracket range, or we're going to auction lower to find a buyer. So bear with me, there's some fireworks going off at the minute. Sorry about that. But this is the current weekly and monthly Vwaps, and you can see here that we've sort of been in this channel on the monthly, and we've seen sellers responsive from the developing value area low, and we've seen buyers holding support at the 1.5 standard deviation since it broke on the 16th. And we're seeing this channel come in, so I mean, one way or other it's going to break. We're either going to break below, or we're going to see a reversion to the mean. So again, we're starting to head back into value now, so we could see a reversion to the mean back to this sort of $85 a barrel, and this could happen pretty fast. I mean, we've got 3 days left of the trading month. We've got crude oil inventories tomorrow and FMC minutes. So if this breaks, then we could see some short covering coming into the market, and we could see a reversion back to this average price here for the month. So it's quite important to see how we close out this month, whether we're going to close out with an imbalance to the sell side, or we're going to close in a neutral market here, which we could see some possible destination trades back up to last year's low. Sorry. I mean, this week we clearly we've built lower value the last 2 days, but value is starting to migrate back into the previous value area. So I mean, the line in the sand has been last week's Vwap so far. So we just have to see how this continues to develop. But since we broke through this Vwap, we've not been able to trade through it, and it's just been a buy side imbalance here. So we just have to continue to monitor this, and see how this pans out. So that's pretty much it for crude. I mean, just very important to see where we head from here tomorrow. I mean, if we continue to open below the 5 exponential moving average and auction down, I mean, we was 1 time framing down and we broke this today, so that is suggesting that we're going to see two-way trade back into the market. So again, the expectation is to come back and test this sort of $83 a barrel area, and we'll see where we go from there. The SP 500 has been marching higher since that big sell-off over the last couple of weeks, and we've been 1 time framing for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Today's the 10th day of 1 time framing. We opened gap up above this 3-day balance area, and we're still seeing some buyers come into this market here. So obviously we've got FMC minutes tomorrow, so there's probably some inventory correction coming into the market ahead of this. And I mean, currently with the S&P, we're just seeing this. We've basically been trending up. We couldn't break that 100-day exponential moving average, and then finally we see this last sort of buying cycle come in. We tagged the high, and now we're seeing some two-way trade balance to come back into this market, and the higher time frame moving averages are starting to flatten out now, and we're seeing this balancing area come into play. So the expectation is to maybe come back, test the highs, put a high in, and then continue to to balance in this area until we either break out higher and we see the trend continue, or we see a new bearish trend established on this market. We're just continuing to monitor how this is going to pan out on the SP 500. So as I said, we've just been one time frame in higher at the minute, and the fast time frame moving averages are very angled and very bullish at the minute. So depending on what happens tomorrow, I wouldn't be surprised to see a big launch higher up here to the current all-time highs here. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I haven't got my high time frame charts loaded for the S&P, so I can't really go over that, but I'm just going to leave it at that for the moment here. So anyway, I hope you all have had a good couple trading days and a good couple weeks, and I'll touch base here as we continue to progress here with this auction on crude oil. I mean, I have been covering this in depth on the forum about how this bearish trend has been established, and my thoughts and what the market's doing for the market generated information. So if you are a forum member, then I suggest you check that out. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. Take care and goodbye.